The views and opinions expressed in The Fact Is with Hollis Grant are those of Hollis Grant and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Droids Canada Network. Droids Canada Network does not take responsibility for any content or position produced by Hollis Grant and his show. Listener discretion is advised.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for tuning in to another edition of The Fact Is. I'm your host, Hollis Grant, and on today's episode, we're going to be looking at the election, or the upcoming election, in the province of Ontario, in the country of Canada. The election is on June 2nd of 2022, and Doug Ford, our friends Doug Ford, which we've talked about in prior episodes on droidscanada.com. You can go back and listen to some of those episodes where we've taken a look at some of the expense reports of some of the Conservatives over the years. Personal favorite was the $2 expense. Again, go back on droidscanada.com to listen to that particular show. Today's episode, we're going to focus in on one particular candidate in the Niagara region, Niagara Central region. It's an NDP member of Parliament. The NDP, New Democratic Party, is a traditional left-wing, socialist-leaning party. If you're of the mindset that you feel entitled to stay at home and not work and collect government handouts, or if you're someone that enjoys large government and paying lots of taxes and having lots of social programs, this is the party for you. They represent the quote-unquote working man, traditional blue-collar, traditional unions, people that are the backbone of the economy. They'll constantly sing praises of the working man. This is the party that was responsible for gutting the manufacturing sector in Ontario. This is the party that's responsible for countless employees back in the 90s when they were elected, the only time they were elected to government in the province of Ontario, of watching porn at work. This is a government that enjoys spending money, because the problem with socialism is eventually you run out of people's money to spend and you need to find ways to get more money. So let's look at the particular candidate and how much of a working man he is. Now, if you want to follow along, we're going to Jeff Burch, MPP.ca. And here he says in his own words, following in the footsteps of Mel Stewart, Peter Cormos, and Cindy Froster, Jeff took office as Niagara Centre MPP in 2018. He came to the job as a lifelong Niagara resident who has worked in the region as a union representative. There you go, your union representative, city councillor, and executive director in the non-profit sector. I'd like to ask residents of the Niagara area how their manufacturing facilities are in the city of Welland, because the city of Welland used to have a lot of factories which were union controls. I'd like to ask those people, how are those factories today? Nonetheless, city councillor and executive director in the non-profit sector, again, working for people that receive their money from the government, from the taxpayer. He is fighting to make life more affordable for working families and seniors, and continues to fight for frontline healthcare workers, expanded hospital capacity, and homes families can afford. He's fighting for more union jobs. We've covered on past episodes how unions have decimated Canada's economy, and we've showed how unions are infiltrating government and getting to the point where the government will be stretched to capacity to pay for these labor costs. And what happens when they can no longer make those labor costs? This is something that will be coming in the not too distant future, at least in the province of Ontario. And you have to keep in mind, Ontario has the highest sub-sovereign debt in the world. A province with only 15 million people is outspending the state of California. Now, Americans will understand and recognize that California is seen as a state that is constantly paying out. A lot of government money is being spent out. You have to keep in mind, Ontario is outspending California. Now, as mentioned in his biography, Jeff is a lifelong Niagara resident. He lives with his wife Linda and son Jackson. Jeff was elected as Member of Parliament for Niagara Central on June 7th, 2018. Since being elected, Jeff has been an advocate for the rights of municipalities, affordable housing, and successfully passed his first private member's motion on bringing year-round GO rail service to Niagara. MPP Jeff Burch serves as the critic for municipal affairs for the official opposition. Now, taking a look at good old Jeff, working man of Niagara, the person who's always worked in the public sector, being paid by taxpayers, sucking off the government teat. We're going to look at how much does good old Jeff make? Because in the Niagara region, the average salary for the Niagara region is $37,260, or about $19.11 per hour. That is the average working man. So Jeff, representing the average working man, pulls in $116,550 per year. That was in 2019. Jeff is comfortably on Ontario's Sunshine List, a list of all public employees making over $100,000 or more. Now, because Jeff is a working man and represents working families, and he understands how hard it is to be a working man making more than double the salary of the working man in Niagara, because Jeff understands so much, we can go back and we can take a look at his expense report. And in 2019, working man Jeff expended $38.80 for members' hospitality in his constituency office. So, food, catering events, $38. Now, Jeff really understands the working man, and while he was in Toronto, he can relate to having really saved his money and to really care about how much he spends his money, because when you're making more than double the average of your constituents, he expensed $18.98 for urban travel, for public transit, taxi or parking and tolls is how much he expensed to the taxpayer. $64.15. Again, he wanted to eat. It was a nice meal. More, $22 for urban travel. Again, that could be public transit, taxi, parking. We know that parking in the downtown core is $20, so it could have been he parked for $20 and he took $2 and hopped on a bus or took a subway somewhere, because he's not making enough. Jeff just doesn't make enough. He can't afford to pay for a taxi. He can't afford to pay for his own meals. It's very hard for him to represent the people that only make $37,000 a year on average, and he makes $115,000 a year. You can't expect this man to take public transit on his own dime. It's hard for him. It's hard for the NDP. It's hard for the people that want to save you money, that advocate for saving you money, and they really want to do a lot, but they take a lot. So how will the NDP, Jeff's party, look at bringing in more income? Well, here we go, right from their own website, the OntarioNDP.ca, and here's their commitments. They're going to commit, we will freeze taxes for low and middle income families. And then another commitment, here it is, ensure that the wealthiest Ontarians and big corporations pay their fair share, raising much needed revenue. Their fair share, to tax people that make more money, already heavily taxed. Now, my question is, what is a wealthy individual. Is a wealthy individual someone that makes more than the average? In this case, $37,000. And that wealthy individual who makes $115,000, or someone that is on the Ontario Sunshine List making over $100,000, how much tax do you spend there, Jeff? How much are you willing to put down on the line to say, I make too much money? I make too much. I make more than the average person in my riding, and I don't need this much money, and I will hand it back. Will your party commit to saying, we will take a pay cut? We make too much money. The average Ontario salary is, you ready for this? The average salary in Ontario is $52,260. $52,000 is the average. So, Jeff, you're making double the average Ontario. Remember, $37,000 is your average in your riding. So, if you're really going to say, who are you taxing? Give me the number of a person and what they make and how much they have to pay. And when we get into corporations and large corporations, how much will the corporation have to pay? And what about union jobs? Can we look at how much public servants are making and cut back their salary? Because we are now in a position where we have over 3,000 employees on the Sunshine List, and this number keeps on growing and growing year over year, but yet the private sector, it keeps on falling and suffering. How much more can you tax taxpayers? So can your party come out and say, what is a wealthy individual, and get a number to what that wealthy is? Now, the party of the working man that clearly makes double, triple what the actual working man makes, and they want to tax people that are rich, but can't define what rich is, because to someone that's making $37,000 a year, rich is someone that makes $115,000 a year and then has the gall to expense $18 back to the taxpayer because he can't pay that out of pocket. The NDP are the people that they want to stop. But as we pointed out on past episodes, droidscanada.com, you can go back and listen to our Charlie Angus episode, another NDP lifelong supporter of socialism and taking a rock star of the North, the man that talks about human rights and treating everyone equally with respect, but names his dog Attila after Attila the Hun. The NDP has become a hypocritical party. A party with no values, a party that likes to tax and spend hard-working Canadian money, Ontarian money, or local communities, and to tax them and to give them programs that are useless. Who knows if they form a majority government? Will we have the same bureaucrats researching porn on Pornhub, a Canadian website, like they did under the leadership of the great NDP leader Bob Rae, who since defected and became a liberal, a federal liberal? But time will tell. Who knows what will happen in this election coming up? But we'd like to thank you for tuning in to this edition of The Fact Is. I'm your host, Hollis Grant. We hope that you have a great week. See you next time.
Dan, what happens every Thursday?
That would be DCR Droids Canada Radio.
And what time is it on Thursday?
That's from 9 till 11 p.m.
Dumb question, where do you find it?
You find that at accessradio.ca.
And what's the best part?
It's